Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into the very instruction manual for life itself. You know, almost every single cell in your body holds a complete blueprint that decides everything about you. What you look like, how you function, all of it. So let's get started and explore what connects you to the very code of your existence.
So, what on earth is the link between your hair color, something called a chromosome, and a tiny strand of DNA? I know, it sounds a little random, right? But believe me, the answer connects something you see in the mirror every single day to the absolute core of your biology. And by the end of our chat today, you'll see exactly how these three are all woven together.
You see, every single living thing, and I mean everything, from the tiniest bacterium to a huge blue whale, needs a master set of instructions, a plan for how to live, how to grow, and how to reproduce. And that master plan is what we call the genetic blueprint. Now, there's a scientific name for this complete library of instructions, the genome. But here's where it gets really interesting. While every organism has a genome, life has come up with two totally different ways to store this information. And this difference creates one of the most fundamental splits in the entire natural world.
So what are these two architectures for life? Well, this is one of the most basic dividing lines in all of biology. And it really just boils down to a simple question. Does the cell keep its blueprint locked away in a safe or not? Okay, so on one side, you've got the prokaryotes. Think bacteria. Their genome is basically one single circular chromosome just kind of floating around in a region we call the nucleoid. There's no separate room, no vault. But then you have the eukaryotes, and hey, that's us. It's also all animals, plants, and fungi. Our genetic material is neatly organized into multiple straight-line chromosomes, and they're all tucked away safely inside a protective bubble called the nucleus. So, different storage systems, but the key parts, chromosomes and genes, are still there.
All right, from here on out, we're going to focus mainly on eukaryotes, like us, because when you have so much genetic information, you can't just have it floating around loose. That would be chaos. It needs to be organized into manageable volumes, kind of like books in a library. And these books are what we call chromosomes.
So, for humans, what's the magic number of books in our library? It's 46. That's right. In a typical human body cell, what scientists call a somatic cell, you are going to find exactly 46 chromosomes. But where did they all come from?
The answer is in this word, diploid. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Most of our cells are diploid, which really just means we have two complete sets of chromosomes. It's simple, really. You inherit one full set of 23 from one parent, and you get a second full set of 23 from your other parent, and that gives you your grand total of 46.
So, the key takeaway here is that our chromosomes come in matched pairs. We call them homologous chromosomes. And they are homologous, or matched, because they're the same length and they carry the genes for the same things, like eye color or blood type, in the exact same spots. But, and this is super important, the versions of those genes can be different. That's how you get genetic variety.
Okay, time to zoom in even further. If the genome is the whole library, and the chromosomes are the books, then what are the actual words written on the page? What are the specific instructions that actually determine our traits? Well, my friends, those are the genes. A gene is really the working part of a chromosome. It's a very specific stretch of DNA that holds the unique code for one specific protein. And it's these proteins that are the little workhorses in our bodies. They do all the heavy lifting and ultimately create our physical characteristics, or what we call our traits.
This breakdown shows the process perfectly. Let's use blood type as an example. First, the gene for blood type on your chromosome provides a specific recipe. Then, your cells read that recipe and use it to build a very specific protein marker that goes on your blood cells. And finally, the type of protein that's made determines your actual blood type, your physical trait. So you see, gene leads to protein, which leads to trait. Simple as that.
Now, this all makes a lot of sense, but there is a massive physical problem that we haven't talked about yet. The amount of DNA that has to be squeezed inside a single microscopic cell nucleus is just mind-boggling. It's truly an impossible feat of biological engineering.
Just let that sink in for a second. 2 meters. That's more than 6 feet of DNA. And all of that has to be packed into a nucleus that's so small you can't even see it. How in the world does the cell pull that off?
Well, the secret is a special material called chromatin. See, chromatin isn't just plain DNA. It's a complex made of DNA that's been tightly wrapped around these specialized proteins called histones. You can think of the histones as tiny little spools, and the DNA is the thread.
The cell uses this amazing multi-level packing strategy. First, the DNA thread wraps around the histone spools, which creates something that looks like beads on a string. We call those beads nucleosomes. Then that string of beads gets coiled up into an even thicker fiber. And finally, other proteins come in and loop and pack that fiber even more tightly until you get the super condensed chromosome that we can actually see with a microscope. It is a masterclass in packing.
Okay, let's put it all together now. We've gone from the entire library of life all the way down to the individual words on the page. It's time to finally and officially answer that question we started with.
So here it is, plain and simple. Your physical traits, like your hair color, are decided by your genes. Those genes are just specific sections on your chromosomes. The chromosomes are the tightly packed, super-organized bundles of your entire genome, and the genome is the complete set of DNA instructions that you inherited. It's this beautiful, perfect hierarchy of information, from the biggest picture down to the smallest detail.
And I want to leave you with one last thought to chew on. We've been talking all about genes, right? Well, they only make up about 2% of our DNA. For years, scientists called the other 98% junk DNA. We know now that's not true. Some of it helps control the genes, but most of its function, still a complete mystery. So the blueprint is written, but it turns out we're really just beginning to learn how to read the whole thing.